I'm Hugh Hewitt with Chairman Gallagher. Mike Gallagher, Congressman from Wisconsin, is chairman of the House Select Committee on China. He joins me now. Good morning, Chairman Gallagher. How are you?
It is great to be with you, Hugh.
It's wonderful. Ever since you became a chairman, you're putting on a sport coat and you're looking much better.
I got my workout done earlier today. I couldn't sleep last night. My daughter was up. So I showered for you. I shaved. I put on a sport coat. I mean, this is what I do to pay respect to the great Hugh Hewitt.
Let's not waste the time then. Later today, I'm going to pre-tape an interview with this man, Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, about this book, Never Give an Inch, which is 20% about the Chinese Communist Party. And it's direct. I mean, they do not like Mike Pompeo, and Mike Pompeo does not like the Chinese Communist Party. I am curious if you think he'll be among the witnesses called before or requested before the Select Committee on China.
I would love to have Secretary Pompeo testify for a few reasons. One, he was not only present at the effectuation of the biggest shift in U.S. foreign policy since the end of the Cold War, but he was largely responsible for it. Him, Matt Pottinger, H.R. McMaster played a key role in changing the direction of our country in terms of our competition with China. And what's most remarkable about that shift is that it's largely a bipartisan one. In other words, while Democrats may quibble with certain aspects of the Trump administration shift on U.S. foreign policy, they haven't rejected it wholesale, which tells you something about the wisdom of that shift. The second reason is that, who has the perspective of being both Secretary of State and CIA director, to say nothing of his extensive background in Congress, in the military, et cetera, et cetera. So one, I look forward to reading the book. Two, I'd love to have the secretary participate either in a hearing or a briefing to the members. And I think his perspective would be invaluable. And I've had conversations with him in a closed setting, and I've come away very enriched by those conversations.
Let's talk about the members. Has Hakeem Jeffries named your counterpart, the ranking minority member of the Select Committee on China yet?
He has not. I am hoping that whoever he names is someone serious, someone who doesn't want to play political games, and someone that's ready to get to work right away. I'm hoping that we have our Republican members named today or tomorrow, because that's standing in the way of me doing certain things. But again, as I said on your show multiple times since being named chairman, we want this to be a bipartisan effort. So I don't intend to go off and just do things by myself. I'd love to have a ranking member that can be there as we get certain things in place, as we do our first hearing. And so right now we're kind of in a holding pattern until we have that. And any prospective ranking members that might be considering running for the Senate, I just asked them to consider how much more fun it would be to work with me on the most important national security issue of our day than napping and getting the early bird special in the Senate.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, the Gallagher Committee is going to matter a great deal. Let me talk to you a little bit about a non-Gallagher Committee issue since we don't have the members yet, and that is the debt limit. Your friend and mine, Chip Roy, was on last week, and I wrote a column about it in the Washington Post, and I got it wrong. I said he wanted to roll back to FY19. He doesn't want to roll back to FY19. He wanted to roll back to FY22. If we do a CR rolling back to FY19, he wants to exempt defense spending. My point of view, which I'm trying to communicate, I don't want to ever get Chip Roy wrong because a good man engages, is that we can't cut defense spending, period. No matter what happens in the debt limit, no matter what happens in the CR and in the budget, we need a year over year real defense increase. Chairman Gallagher, do you agree with that? Because primarily of the threat posed by China.
I do. Well, quickly on Chip Roy, I do think Chip and I have a great relationship. I have enormous respect for his intellect. He's sincere. If you disagree with his tactics, there's no question that he's doing it for sound constitutional reasons. It's not grandstanding when it comes to Chip. And I having discussed this issue with him many times, I think we could get to a point where as long as we are aggressive on the cuts to non-defense discretionary, we could preserve enough space to not only stay at $858 billion for defense, but increase that by at least 3%. Now, we may be able to set up a process akin to something like Secretary Gates tried to set up before Obama betrayed him, where any savings in terms of administrative or bureaucratic redundancies, the service is fine. They could invest in hard power. But I completely agree with your point, Hugh, that now is not the time to be cutting defense. So then what is our ask? What is our negotiating position going into the debt ceiling crisis in particular? Well, someone who's never voted for a debt ceiling increase, I would think there are some sensible things we could demand and persuade some senators to come along. I have a bill called the Trust Act. Senator Romney has it in the Senate that would basically set up a series of rescue task forces for all the trust funds that are going insolvent, highway trust funds, Social Security, et cetera, learning the right lessons from the failure of Simpson Bowles. The REINS Act seems sensible to me. That's got a ton of support in the House. Ron Johnson has a bill called the Reducing the Size of the Federal Government Through Attrition Act. The Simpson Bowles Commission actually endorsed that bill. In fact, I bet there's a lot of things you can find in Simpson Bowles that Republicans would be enthusiastic about and aren't crazy proposals. So I think we can pair a debt ceiling increase with some sensible asks that would be very hard for Democrats in the Senate in particular to vote against.
Your friend and former holder of the chair that you hold, the David Dreyer Weekly Chair from Congress, Tom Cotton, suggested that debt limit amendments, when they raise, have to do with reducing the debt. So my ask is to repeal the 87,000 agents because we should not be balancing the debt on the back of small businesses. My other ask, just to send a message, NPR and PBS funding goes away because that's the least defensible part of the federal government budget. It's not much, but it is the least defensible part. But then primarily that whatever you get to soon. Is there a process set up where the House conference is going to come to a conclusion on the asks and the Senate conference, GOP conference, are going to come to a conclusion on the ask and that be negotiated? Because right now we're losing the media battle. We're losing it.
Well, first of all, I agree on NPR and the IRS agents. The problem is that doesn't sort of really put a dent in your long-term debt issue. But in terms of a win that the grassroots can be excited about, as well as just the right thing to do, I agree with that. Here's the good news in terms of the overall process. We have a new budget chair, Jody Arrington. He's phenomenal. He's been leading these kind of off-the-record discussions about the debt issue, not just sort of the scale and scope of the debt, but the dysfunctional process that leads to these debt crises. He has a bill to actually fix that. He's a great guy. He came in with me in my class, and he's going to come forward with a set of proposals, and I'm very excited about his leadership on the budget committee. And yeah, he's someone who would be great to have on your show to talk about his vision for this. So I'm confident that the process behind the scenes between him and the Speaker's office is moving forward. This is not going to be easy. These debt negotiations never are in divided government, but I think we can just stand firm on a series of sensible, adult in the room asks as we go forward, and then we can start to win that media battle.
Well, Jody Arrington is smart. Chip Roy is smart. You're smart. Speaker McCarthy's smart. Everybody's got a lot of good ideas, but it's got to come down to a lead paragraph in a column. It really cannot be longer than 3 sentences. Until the border wall goes up, neither will the debt limit. That whatever it is, there's got to be an is that the American people understand. Today's New York Times story says debt crisis, Republicans are going to cause insolvency. You're going to get hammered with that for the next 4 months. And unless you get Captain America's shield up, in terms of we're just asking for this, they're going to continue to hammer you. So has anyone set down the rules for getting to the ask?
The rules in terms of internal to our caucus on the House side, and the Republicans. If they have, I haven't been part of those discussions. I'm not on the committees of jurisdiction, but I know that there's been vigorous discussion behind the scenes, both leading up to the speaker vote and since Kevin McCarthy was elected speaker. Obviously, they've been populating the committees. I know Jody is talking with his counterparts on the appropriations committees, the authorizing committees. I know this is a priority for Speaker McCarthy, and it's something we debated in our retreat many months ago. So I completely take your point about having a very simple, digestible headline that we can present to the American people. And right now, I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get there, given the quality of people we have in key leadership positions.
Is there certainty on your part that the Republicans will not vote for defense cuts? In fact, that will not vote for anything that is a real defense cut, which takes into account inflation. We just cannot do that. Is there confidence on your part that the caucus will stick together on that?
I am very confident that a budget resolution that cuts defense in real terms will not pass the House of Representatives. I mean, if you think about, let's say there's 20 votes for defense cuts based on just the number that were initially opposing Speaker McCarthy, there are far more votes against defense cuts in the House Republican caucus. So a budget resolution that attempted to do that in my opinion, would be dead on arrival. And I can't imagine Mike Rogers on Armed Services, Mike Turner on House Intel, myself on the China Select Committee, Ken Calvert on Defense Appropriations, getting behind that in any way. Now, of course, we want to be responsible stewards of the taxpayer dollar. Of course, there are efficiencies to be found in the Defense Department. Of course, we can downsize the largest military service, which is DoD civilians, which has grown at an exponential rate. I'm all for that type of tooth-to-tail rebalancing and investing more money in hard power and less in useless bureaucracy. But we cannot cut defense at a time when our enemies are investing historic amounts in defense. So that will not happen in the U.S. House of Representatives.
If I can even hear that from a number of people, I will be happy. But can you see linking the debt limit rise to a guaranteed rate of rise in defense spending? Because, Congressman, you and I agree, the rest of the country doesn't. We're in 1938. People don't understand. We could have conflict in the South China Sea today, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'd be upset, and we're not in a good position. But does the Congress, and that's broadly speaking, understand that we're in 1938?
Not yet. That's going to be part of our mission on the Select Committee on China, is to wake people up and eventually ensure that we are not in an interwar period, but rather we take the steps necessary such that we are in 1979 and 1938, where it's dark right now, but morning in America is on the horizon, and we make the investments necessary to protect our sovereignty, our national security, and ultimately win this new Cold War with Communist China.
Chairman Mike Gallagher, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How'd the Packers do in round one? I wasn't watching.
They took a break.
They took a break. So did the Browns. We got a new defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. He's coming over to save us. Do you have any coaching changes in Milwaukee, in Green Bay?
Hugh, it's a dark day in Green Bay, Wisconsin right now. We're trying to figure out if Aaron Rodgers is going to be our quarterback next year. We'll see.
Is he as old as Tom Brady?
No, I think he's my age. He's either 38 or maybe he's a year older. He's 39. He's a little bit younger.
Starting to break down. Got to go down to South America, find some hallucinogens.
I'm in my prime. I don't know. 38's my best year.
I think 38's fine for Congress. For the Green Bay Packers, not so sure. Chairman Gallagher, thank you. I'll be right back, America. Don't go anywhere. I think the segment I do with Chairman Gallagher each week is perhaps the most important radio I have ever done. And if people will just listen and pay attention, we are facing an existential threat, a real one in the Chinese Communist Party, and we have to prepare for it. Priority number one, 1938. We got to prepare for it. I'll be right back.